But moving on to the next topic, man. So Chad OchoCinco has been doing a late night talk show called The Nightcap with our boy Uncle Shannon Sharpe. Mm-hmm. And he did mention something about him getting married, you know what I'm saying? Here coming up soon, and how he refuses to sign a prenup after his fiance asked him to sign one. D-Lo, how do you feel about the situation that Chad OchoCinco is going through, brother?
I ain't mad at Ocho. I mean, I can see why women would be mad at Ocho, especially with the type of career that he had, type of money that he made back in the day. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't he sign a prenup when his fiance has this empire that she's building called Allure Realty down in Tampa or in the Florida area? We have a high school classmate that we know that's a part of that here 100%. In the Carolina regions. So, I'm not mad at Ocho because all he's doing is he's flipping the narrative that a lot of women use when the man is the one that's currently making the amount of money that we assume that his fiance is making, and the wife is home taking care of the kids or doing the things that need to be done around the house. I'm not mad at him. Now, as a man, would I sign a prenuptial agreement? I probably would, and the reason I would is because the prenuptial agreement isn't the negative connotation that a lot of people think it is.
That's what I was going to say, but go ahead, finish up.
Everybody has a negative connotation of what the prenuptial agreement actually is. In reality, the prenuptial agreement is saying, I'm taking the decisions of what happens with our assets out of the court's hands, and I'm saying before we get married, if we get to this point of where we want to divorce, if we want to separate, this is what's going to happen with the assets. Now, where the negative connotation probably came in or probably had got to this point is some woman back in the day, or maybe man, I don't know. We don't know how it is. Probably got severely screwed with a prenuptial agreement. And now everybody, no, don't you ever sign a prenuptial agreement. But I mean, some of our favorite people have prenuptial agreements. Jay-Z has a prenuptial agreement with Beyonce. She gets I think $5 million for every year that they are married. After 10 years, they've already been married 10 years. So, I mean, but if they were allowed to let the courts decide, I mean, I know she makes a lot of money, but she could get half of what he has because I'm sure his worth is more than hers. Yeah. All the stuff that he's involved with. But, I'm not mad at Ocho. I'm not mad at him at all. I wouldn't sign it either as of right now if I were him.
True. And I'm not mad at Ocho either. And just like you said, man, just going back to the negative connotation of prenuptial agreements. If you really think about it, bro, especially with somebody in a situation like this, and not everybody is in this type of situation, you know what I'm saying? But because he has a high net worth, so does she. So not everybody is in that. Not everybody is in that class where they can say both spouses have a very, very high net worth. Most people are just average people, probably making around 50, 60,000 a year and bringing in as a household about 100 to 150,000 a year together. So understandable. But the negative connotation around prenuptial agreements is kind of crazy to me because if you think about it, it protects both people. It's saying that
it's supposed to.
And it's saying that whatever you came in with, you take with you. Whatever I came in with, I take with me. If we build something together, we figure that out at the time. That's how I look at prenuptial agreements.
Right.
With in his situation, I mean, I don't plan on when I get married, I don't plan on divorcing. So I don't believe a prenuptial agreement is necessary, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's nothing that can't be worked out through communication, just talking things out and just not getting to a point where it's toxic, to be perfectly honest. So anything can be worked out, anything can be talked about, as long as it's not anything violent, any, betrayal, anything of that nature, any disloyalty, anything can be worked out. But it's it's not a prenuptial agreement is not a bad thing. It had to be somebody, husband or wife, that got completely screwed, as D-Lo said, that says, you know what, prenuptials ain't right. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? I came into this thing with nothing. He or she came into this thing with nothing. And I was a multi-millionaire. Now every single year I got to give her $10 million, and she ain't had nothing before she got with me, or the same, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? He ain't had nothing whenever he got with me. It had to be somebody that has been completely screwed, that had this thing to have such a negative connotation that it has. But just before you even sign the prenuptial agreement, you have to speak about what that agreement entails anyway, as a couple. Now, he said that she just brought him papers and was like, hey, sign this prenup. And he was like, I ain't signing it. You know what I'm saying? And I agree with it in that sense, because you do have the option to talk about it as a couple or what's going into this prenup. But, you know, and for her to kind of just bring it to him like, hey, this is a prenuptial agreement, I want you to sign this before we get married. I'm like, I'd be like, what you handing me this for? You know what I'm saying? Right. And the same, just like, you know, say our boy Steven Jackson with his whole situation with the prenuptial agreement. He was trying to get her to sign it all the way up until the day of the marriage, the day of the wedding. And she didn't. And she tried to he called it off because this was right whenever he signed his first major contract in the NBA, and he was trying to protect his assets, because even though he was in love with her, he knows how things can happen. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's a bad thing. Would I sign one? I don't think it's necessary with the thought process I have, but a prenup is not always bad. We got to find a way to change the narrative around this, because it's not always bad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not mad at Ocho. Is he being petty?
Probably so, because he a petty individual in the first place.
That's just Ocho, you know what I mean? So, you know, like I said, if you know a little bit about Ocho, you know he's severely cheap.
Severely cheap.
He mentions how he doesn't want to spend any money, how his first year in the league, he spent more than half the year living in the locker room. He didn't even own an apartment. He used to drive a smart car, which is like
the smallest, probably as big as this desk. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Like, it's very small. He used to have one of those. He used to go to Claire's to buy jewelry because he knew people would automatically assume
that it's real.
What he had was real and cost tons of money. He eats at McDonald's on
the dollar menu all the time.
All the time. So we know he's severely cheap. And I say all that to say is he still more than likely has a large portion of his NFL contracts from when he was playing. And he was making pretty good money as a receiver from back then.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure he figured out a way to invest it quite well, and that money is making him money continuously. So is he being petty? More than likely he is. But for me, the reason I say I'm not mad is because it's flipping the narrative on his head that women, and I'm not being misogynistic, I'm trying not to be anyway.
Yeah, of course.
That women always play is why is this person worried about divorce? And, you know, and we ain't even got married yet. You know, why are they thinking about the end before we even get started? This situation is no different. It's kind of like tit for tat. So yeah, he's probably being petty, but in reality, I'm sure they'll work something out to where, you know, it's something in the prenuptial agreement that benefits both of them. Because she's trying to protect her Allure Realty empire. And, you know, he's trying to make sure that he's taken care of when if it doesn't work out,
which we hope it doesn't end, because Absolutely. they have a very beautiful relationship, and it's I love watching them on Instagram when he does post, and it's a very, very beautiful relationship. And he did make mentions of, you know, she built the empire and she gave him the opportunity to just stay home, be a housewife, as he said, but he gave just to be a stay at home dad, play video games, take care of the kids. She allowed him that, and she worked very, very hard for her empire. So I can understand why she wants to protect it. But he could come back and say the same thing, because a lot of his net worth could be hers if at any point that they do separate or they do divorce. So he could have flipped it on his head too. Oh, you want to give me papers? I can give you papers too. just to go. And I know it's tit for tat, and it don't make no sense. It is petty, but I don't see, even if they did divorce, I don't see Chad Johnson taking any of that. As petty as he is and as silly as he is a very understanding person. You know what I'm saying? Chad Johnson at one point, I'm a little biased in the situation. I'm going to be honest with y'all, because Chad Johnson at one point was my favorite receiver, favorite player in the NFL at one point.
Right.
But it is, but to D-Lo's point, it is flipping the situation on its head, because a lot of the stories that you do hear is about a man asking a woman to sign a prenup. But at this in this situation is a little bit different. And the man that's being asked to sign the prenup has a higher net worth than the woman that's asking him to sign it. But he is just being a house husband. He's being a stay-at-home dad. She's the one going out and making them. Yeah, he's going out. She's the one that's going out making the money, building the empire, which is what you normally hear the man doing, and having a housewife. So it's an interesting situation. I understand what Chad Johnson is saying, what OchoCinco is saying, but just find a way to get this negative connotation of prenuptial agreements out, because it's not as bad as people make it seem, for sure.
Right.
For sure. Thank you for watching this video. If you've made it this far and you like what you see, there's a video on the screen right here. Make sure you click that and view that. We think you're going to love it. Also, that subscribe button that's right there on the screen, go ahead and hit that. We still got that goal of 450. And when you're on all of your streaming platforms, wherever you find your podcasts.